For our next few projects, we're going to be looking at some drawing techniques. And so this unit will mainly be in drawing and drawing with different materials. But with drawing, I want to look at doing shading and some different ways that you can include shading into a drawing. So again, showing value, showing the light to dark, all right? Showing the value of an object or a shape. And so making something look three-dimensional by using value and shading. So with this sheet right here, this gives you some different types that we're going to be doing. You'll see that the stippling with the little dots is already done for you. And so we're going to be matching the value of these that are already done, where the light and the dark is on these objects up here. You've got the cube, the sphere, the cylinder, and the cone, of course. There's sort of four basic forms. And then we're going to be looking at hatching using color, cross-hatching, doing in black and white. Then instead of scribbling, we're actually going to do the stippling technique, but in color. And then blending, finally, with blending there. So the very first one I'm going to do is hatching, and I'm going to do this that in what's called monochromatic or one color. But remember that even in monochromatic, so I'm going to be using orange, but orange is made up of red and yellow. So I can go anywhere within this range, and it'll still be monochromatic looking, meaning one color, even though I'm going to be using red and yellow for the highlights and for the shadows. And so for the first one, the square, I'm going to just demonstrate, again, with the orange. I'm going to use the orange here. And so hatching means that it's lines in one direction. So you'll see that I'm putting in lines in one direction. And over here, so they're pretty close together, over here I'm going to do the lines, but a little bit more farther apart, and I'm not pressing down as hard. A little bit more farther apart. I'm going to leave this up here without any color, because you'll see that's where the highlight is. And then we have the shadow that's coming off of we have a shadow here, so now I'm pressing down a little bit harder. You'll see the shadow here. Again, I'm trying to copy the value that's here. And there's some shadow in the background behind the cube. A little bit over here. Also behind the cube, you see that I press down hard and then lighter. Now I'm going to go in and put in some of those darker shadows. So I'm going to use brown. Actually, there's quite a lot of orange in brown. And so I'm going to use this to do some of my hatching techniques with the shadow. Just where those darker shadows are. Okay, now I'm going to go back and let's see, I'm going to add some of the red in here in the shadow. Not a lot, just a few. Because again, I want the overall thing to appear to be orange. I might add a couple more orange going this way. Again, I'm trying to match that value there. A couple here. And then on the lighter side, I'm going to go in, because remember, orange is made up of red and yellow. So I'm going to put a little yellow there. Yellow in here. Maybe go back a bit more orange. Remember that hatching is just in one direction. When we get into cross hatching, then you're going to be also hatching in the opposite direction. A bit more yellow on the table here, a little bit more orange. Okay, so there is the hatching on the cube. Now I'm going to go to the sphere. The sphere is a little bit different in that because it's a rounded shape, I want to do my hatching marks so that they go around the shape. So again, here you'll see that the darkest areas are over here. So again, I'm going to start by sort of putting these hatching marks, even though they're right next to each other, but they're also curving around the shape. Now notice where the highlight is. I'm sort of going around the highlight. And again, I'm putting almost like using a paintbrush and just keep dabbing in color. And then the same over here, I'm going to do these hatch marks where they are making this sort of oval shape of a shadow underneath. Okay, over here, since it's the wall again, it's a flat space, I don't have to curve them. I'm going to sort of draw out where the endpoints are. Again, with the hatching, I'm just going in the one direction to sort of fill in those hatch marks. And the same thing with the shadow, I'm going to put in that brown shadow in the darker areas. Here's the darker part of the shadows here underneath the object. Okay, I'm going to go back in, add some reds and yellows, especially in the shadow areas. Red and yellow will make orange. So again, I can add that yellow into the highlight areas. Maybe add some yellow here in the table. Okay, so I'm trying to match that value right there that is on the object. All right, now the cylinder. With the cylinder, again, it's a rounded shape, but you'll notice how you'll have this highlight right here. So you may need an eraser to go back and erase into your drawing. So again, I'm going to put in this orange. Again, it's sort of curving. It's following the curve of the cylinder, following that curve, putting in some of the shadow underneath. Shadow on the wall. Again, it's hatch marks. Some of the shadow over here. Small hatch marks. And then when I go in with the brown, I'm going to leave that area right there where we have this reflective light right here. And so I'm just going to sort of lightly draw it in first, and then I'm going to have my shadow just go around that reflected light area, just going around it and leaving the orange, because we have a bit of reflected light. And I'm going to put in some of that darker area, again, using hatch marks. Hatch marks. Okay. And again, I'm going to go back in and put in the reds and yellows. Again, I'm kind of going around that reflected light area. Hatch marks, hatching. And the yellow, put the yellow on the table here. Because red and yellow make orange. And maybe I've got some yellow here on the cylinder, maybe in that reflected light. We have a little bit more, I'll put a little bit more of the orange in here. So again, the overall look of it will be orange. Same with that one. Orange rather than yellow. It's a lighter orange. Okay. Now, same thing with the cone here. I'm going to do that orange sort of wrapped around. Again, hatch marks wrapping around the shape. There's these parts of the shadow here. This is the darker area of the shadow. There's also some of the shadow on the wall here that almost makes a cone shape like that. And using the brown, going back in, you'll see the darker part of the shadow is actually right here on the cone. Again, just those little hatching marks, and I'm leaving that lighter area. Back with the orange here. And the reds, again, I can hatching marks around, hatching into the shadows, hatch marks, and the yellow. So you notice I'm doing hatch marks rather than sort of coloring it in. It's more of these lines that are right beside each other, right? Go back in, add some more orange back here. I'm going lighter and then harder in some of the more shadow areas. For the wall in the background, you can go up and down like this to create more of a flat surface for that background. All right, and that is the cone. Okay, so those are all the hatching marks. And then in the next video, I will show you the cross hatching that we will do in blue or black ink.